Hey, Mr. Foreman's ECS students. This is going to be the best that I can do to help go over what I'm going to call the dialogue assignment in SNAP. There's going to be this rubric here for you all. There is one extra credit point here if you want to give this a shot. But I'm going to try and give the overview of how to make sprites talk to each other using this concept called broadcast. Okay? It's how we can make sprites react to each other since they're really kind of on separate planes overall. Okay, and then we're going to have to use a talking function that is actually built into Snap, or at least a dialogue function that you can make your sprites look like they're talking. They're going to have to go back and forth and say 3 things each, and we want to use this green flag click thing. But I'm going to add a little concept that I think might be helpful. We'll see. I'm going to make a program hopefully right before your eyes, or a little application right before your eyes. Yeah, see if we can change the stage background at least once throughout the thing here, and show how to do it. But the really important part about this assignment is really understanding how to use broadcast to make your sprites interact with each other, and not just simply rely on, say, setting a timer, or having your sprites wait to do things. That can be used, but it ultimately kind of breaks down. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and we can see the screen beneath, where I've pre-populated Gonzo and Camilla on a background of a good morning scene here, but I'm going to need to add another background scene at some point here. Okay, now they're not going to have a full back and forth conversation, and you can see that I'm missing a third. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to put Animal or anybody else in here, but this hopefully will just give the idea of what we need to do. Now, I'm going to have to assume that you know how to apply and get sprites in here and rename them. We've done that a few times. And then there's Camilla's costume. There's Gonzo the Great, his costume. We'll talk at a later date. It's not really best practice to have this white background. That looks kind of ugly, but that's too much to cram into this one thing. We'll probably give you some tips and techniques to make, say, Gonzo's background transparent along with Camilla's here at a later point. But mess around with that. See if you can figure it out on your own, because that doesn't look all great, but we'll work on that later. Anywho, so we want to get these two talking to each other, and we want, under control to say when green flag clicked to do something. Okay, that's going to be something we're going to need to use here. Or then actually to broadcast a message. Okay, we can also broadcast and wait, which might be helpful too at some point, but we're going to start simply with broadcast. Now, we could drop a script onto, say, Gonzo to start the conversation off. He could be the starter of the conversation here, if he's character 1 or 2. That could work, but I'm actually going to introduce the concept that sometimes actually the stage, you can also create scripts on the stage that act, I would say, as global. So like you've got multiple actors here, but they all respond to the stage equally. So sometimes if you want something to affect everybody and get everybody moving all at once, I wouldn't necessarily drop it on one of your sprites. I would actually place it, best practice for myself, on the stage. This may help you out a lot when it actually comes to coding more sophisticated programs. So I'm actually going to drop when green flag clicked onto the stage. Okay, now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go, broadcast. Okay, as soon as that happens, I'm going to broadcast, and if you click here, it can see that you need to create a new message to broadcast. Okay, and you want to make this descriptive, so I'm going to say I'm going to name it like the dialogue starts. Or the scene starts, maybe. Okay, hopefully my spelling is half decent there. And I'm going to click OK. I'm now going to broadcast the screen starts. Okay? And that's from here, from the stage. Okay? Now, I'm going to come back to Gonzo here. And I'm going to say, well, when Gonzo receives the message that says, the scene starts, there is a place here where it's based off of this. Where is it that we can actually do dialogue? I believe it might be under looks here. Here we go. So, under looks, the purple tiles, you can actually have then Gonzo say something, which is going to be say hello for 2 seconds. Now that's just the default. You can modify this to have your character say whatever they want. So in Gonzo's case, it would be, hello, Camilla. Lovely day. Lovely day, isn't it? Question mark. He's going to say that for 2 seconds. So before doing anything else here, perhaps what I want to do then is test this to make sure that it does what I want it to do. So let's try this. Here we go. Hey, what do you know? I clicked on the green flag. Gonzo said, hey Camilla, lovely day, isn't it? That's amazing. Then, wait a minute, we need to express to Camilla that it's now her turn to talk. So, we're just simply then going to add in yet another broadcast. And, again, you're going to have to be kind of careful with how you want to name these and make sure you keep track of this. But I'm going to say this is going to be Gonzo to Camilla 1. Okay, so he's going to send it over to Camilla. He's now broadcasting that. Then Camilla, over here, she is going to, when she receives the Gonzo to Camilla 1, is going to come over, sit here, and say, she, if you look this up, only ever says chicken words, and she's gonna say, bok, bok, bok. I don't even know. Bok, bok, bok for 2 seconds. Exclamation point. Well, that's an exclamation point and a question mark. Okay, so now let's see what happens when I click green flag. Lovely day, isn't it? He says that for 2 seconds. She says that expressively. And then wait a minute, we gotta send it back over to Gonzo one more time. Now, you all have to have 3 characters talking and say at least 3 different things. So you're gonna have to figure out how to do this, and then yeah, Camilla is gonna send back over to control here. Let's see. She's then gonna broadcast Camilla to Gonzo 1. Okay, and then I come back over to Gonzo, who's here, and he's then gonna, when he receives, and notice you have to create yet another kind of stretch. You can only have, when receive a message, has got to be a hat, like the beginning of a string, okay? So, when now we receive this other, when receiving Camilla to Gonzo 1, he's going to say, oh, I'm sorry, or he's going to have to say something to her. I don't know, he's going to say something silly back to that response that Camilla gave, and he's going to go, oh, I'm so sorry that Animal kept you up late last night with his drumming. He isn't the best at I don't know, staying quiet. So let's see here now if they go back and forth between each other again. See how I'm testing things as I go. Oh, look at that. So the dialogue has gone on. Now, for one other thing that you're going to have to do here, at least, is change your background to something else. Or even you could make your background, I don't know, fade away or something else. I could accept that here too. So what you could do here is then coming back to, I don't know, let's come back to the last thing that Gonzo did here. Instead, I'm going to cut my conversation short here a little bit, and we're going to go to, when he does that, I'm going to broadcast fade out, maybe. So I'm going to do new, and I'm going to call this background fade out. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to broadcast background fade out. And now when the stage, because that's where my background is stored, receives this message or this broadcast, the background fades out. I'm going to try and messing around. So what you could do here is you could change, say, the background. What I might need to do here is on the stage, I'm going to change to, you could simply do this. I'm going to do a new screen and I'm going to fill it black. Okay, I could just fade it to black, and that's black. I'm going to rename to black background. Okay. I could do script. When I receive background fade out, I could change. So looks, I could change. Whoop, hold on. Switch costume to black background. Now if I click change here, whoops. Wait a minute, that's not good. What happened there? I'm now set to a black background, but maybe what I want to do here is, even before this, I'm coming back here and I'm going to want to set the background. Whoop, switch costume to. So I'm actually having to go back here to make sure that when I click the green flag, it went to that to start my dialogue off. Oh, and we just went to black. Okay, so I did change my background to black. You can mess around with this a little bit because there are other ways that you could have this fade out as well. So if you go to looks and you could do change ghost effect by 25%. Okay, you could then wait for a second. Where was that? Wait 1 second, and then you could duplicate that, and then you could go down below there. Okay, and then watch what happens when I do this. It's maybe going to fade out a little bit, so that's kind of a cool function that you could mess around with. See if this works. Bok, bok, bok. Yeah, that animal guy. Anyway, and then what happens? Oh, well, -25, -25. That didn't seem super apparent, but if you were to mess around with this a little bit more, maybe I'm going to do this by -50. Maybe that'll be a little bit more apparent than to -25. Let's try this again. And now this takes a little while to get through its cycle, so be kind to me. Don't have this go back and forth for ages because that wasn't even all that apparent. Be kind to me so that this doesn't run on for 5 minutes, because it takes me a while to grade each of these and watch everything through. So try and keep the dialogue quick and snappy. That's kind of the gist of how to use the broadcast. Again, best practice. Probably have all of your dialogue start. Put your green flag clicked on the stage so that things don't accidentally get out of hand here where you have all the sprites trying to do something from the get-go, unless that's something you really want to have happen. Keep this conversation somewhat linear. And again, you don't want to have the sprites talking over each other, and that's how with good management of your broadcast statements, they will talk in sequence, okay? So this is going to be good practice to get familiar with that broadcast and do those things, okay? Hopefully this makes sense. Sorry if you're in class today, this is going to be a little bit challenging. I'll make sure that the captions are on, or hopefully the sub can help you play this in class, or you can ask the sub to play it on the smart board at the front of the screen. So anyway, that's that. I will see you next week.